Winnie the Pooh is a staple of Disney. It's one of the biggest IPs in the company's library, right next to Mickey Mouse and the Disney princesses. However, the franchise is not what it used to be and currently isn't fully in the hands of Disney anymore, which is why we haven't gotten any new projects recently. From Disney, that is. There are terrible parody movies like Blood and Honey 1 and 2, but outside of that, the franchise has been on a huge hiatus. But why did one of Disney's most popular franchises fall into obscurity and been dormant for half a decade? Well, let's talk about how a little movie called Pooh's Heffalump movie ruined the franchise. Pooh's Heffalump movie was the last of the theatrically released Pooh movies until 2011 *S Winnie the Pooh and 2018 *S Christopher Robin. This movie was hoped to repeat the success of the Tigger movie, and while Piglet's Big Movie was a step down from that movie in terms of box office and takes, it was still considered a success. So the studio decided to keep on with the Pooh movies, and came up with the idea of a movie based around the mythical creature in the 100-acre wood known as the Heffalump. And in February of 2005, Pooh's Heffalump movie was released, and while it wasn't a flop, the box office numbers for the film were not impressive, earning only $52 million, which for the budget of $18 million was still successful. But there was clearly a diminishing return with the Pooh movies. The film very quickly disappeared from theaters and left no cultural impact, and has pretty much been forgotten among all the other Pooh films. And so after a Halloween special sequel, Disney decided to pause any further Pooh projects and just relegate them to TV, the studio that produced the Pooh movies. Disney Toon Studios would later shift its focus on the Tinker Bell movies after John Lasseter planned Disney sequels, and after that the franchise would return in 2011 with an animated film that flopped hard, and a few years after that a live-action film which performed well but not that great, although people found it enjoyable, and since then the franchise has been pretty much dead. Disney lost the rights to the Pooh franchise to the public domain, which is why those Pooh horror movies exist, and while it seems Disney is keen on revisiting the franchise in the form of a sequel to Christopher Robin, it's safe to say the franchise isn't as big or important as it used to be. So why do I put the blame on Pooh's Heffalump movie for the downfall of the franchise? Well, for starters, the movie's lackluster performance and overall critical response was not helpful to the long-term viability of the franchise. It performing the way it did showed Disney there was a lack of interest in this franchise, and while the reviews weren't the worst, they certainly damaged the film's chances of becoming a hit. Many people felt that this was just a harmless kid distractor and nothing more. Audiences didn't really care for it either, and since there was already a dip from the Tigger movie to the Piglet movie in terms of box office grosses, it's safe to say Disney felt no reason to keep the series going. I think a big reason as to why this left no impact and disappeared quickly and is so forgotten is because of the year it came out. There was another Disney film releasing that year, and it was none other than Chicken Little, Disney's first CGI animated film. And this was a time when 3D was dominating the industry, and 2D films like Pooh's Heffalump movie were on the way out, and people were eager to see how a Disney 3D film would be handled. They had no interest in the smaller-scale 2D animated film releasing that year that was from a smaller studio, and the fact that Pooh was seen as more of a kid's thing. It's easy to see why Pooh's Heffalump movie didn't do as well as Disney might have hoped. It doesn't help that it's not a good movie either. But that's beside the point. This movie marked the end of the franchise's golden years, and they had entered into a time of uncertainty. Would the franchise survive, or would it fall into nothing and disappear completely? The franchise did pop up from time to time after, but the series was not as active as it used to be, and it was obvious that Disney had very little faith in the franchise. If Pooh's Heffalump movie was a better movie and drew more audiences in, maybe it would have kept the series going, at least for a few more movies. But what ultimately doomed the Pooh franchise was the shift in animation tastes. Pooh's Heffalump movie was part of a dying breed, and no amount of marketing or brand recognition was able to save it from disappointing the company. Overall, guys, Pooh's Heffalump movie was the snowball that caused the avalanche that ultimately led to the franchise disappearing. There are other factors, but the quality of the movie and the way it was marketed and released really put it in a position that it had no chance to make an impression and keep the franchise alive. If they had made a few adjustments and made it better and maybe chose a more appealing release date that isn't close to the month known for garbage releases, then they probably would have made more Pooh movies before they ended the series. They could have made an Eeyore movie or an Owl movie or even a Tigger and Conga movie. The franchise was never the same after the Disney Toon era ended, because Pooh's Heffalump movie was as disappointing as it was and underperformed the way it did. It destroyed the franchise and it drifted into obscurity. Thoughts how Pooh's Heffalump movie ruined the franchise? Anyways guys, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.